So here's the skill with dividing by big numbers on the bottom. So the big number on the bottom that we have is 50, rather big, and I can't see what 50 would go into 5.6. So what I really want to do is do something with the extra 0, because I know for sure that if I divide by 5, I can do that. So then I have to think, 50 is the same thing as 5 times by 10. If I divide a number by 10, is that going to make the final answer bigger or smaller? So I know it's going to make it smaller. So I move the decimal over one place here. So we're going to divide by 0.56 by 5. And then we just divide. So 5 cannot go into the 0, so I put 0, comma. 5 can go into the 5 once with nothing left over. So I can put a 0 there if I wanted to. 5 can go into 6 once, but then I'd have 1 left over. Have to add a 0. 5 goes into 10 2 times. So our final answer is 0.112. The other dividing problem is similar. So it's up here. I don't know if you can see, we're up here. We're going to do that number divided by 400. But I have to think of it myself as 4 times 100. And if I were to divide a number by 100, I know that would make this number smaller. So I can move that decimal 2 places to the left, and I would get 0.228 divided by 4, which I can do a lot easier. So if we did, 4 does not go into the 0, so I put a 0. 4 does not go into the 2, so I put a 0 again. But then we would have a 2 left over. 4 goes into this 22 5 times with 2 left over again. And then 4 goes into 28 7 times. So that is my final answer for number 4. So again, basically, if you look how we did this on number 3, we multiplied by 1 0 at the bottom, and we moved the decimal over 1. And then on this one, we had 2 zeros. On number 4, we had 2 zeros, and we moved the decimal over 2 times. So the number of zeros and the number of times you move the decimal are the same thing. Then number 5 said, what's number 5? It said, what is the difference between 4/5 and 6.5? I know that difference is between a term and another term, but that means subtracting. So I put the bigger one first, and then 4/5. I might have to remember what 4/5 is as a decimal. So I can remember that 1/5 is equal to 2. So if I have 4/5, I can just do 4 times by 2, and I'd get 8. So as a decimal, or it's 0.2. So as a decimal, it would be minus 0.8, which I prefer stacking on top of each other, like that, and then subtract. So I cannot do 5 minus 8. I have to borrow from the 6 and turn it into a 5, which makes the 5 I'm trying to subtract from a 15. So notice I put the little 1 right there instead of writing a 10 on top so that I can get the answer right. So 15 minus 8 would be 7, and 5 minus 0 would be 5. And because we lined the commas up, we bring it down. So 5.7 is the answer for number 5. I hope that you're understanding the skills from these, because these skills are very important. These that I just did, these are all E-level skills. The next ones I think might be number 6, 7, and 8 are more C and A level questions, but it's very important that you understand them. Number 6 says 3/5 of a number is 21. And what it wants to know is what is 1/7 of that number. Yep. So we want to know what goes there. So we talked about, last time we talked about what 3/5 of meant. That meant we divided by the bottom and times by the top. But when we're trying to find this number, we do just the opposite of that. So we're going to do 21, and instead of dividing by the bottom, we're going to divide by the top. So that was 3, and then times by the bottom. So divide by the top and times by the bottom to undo it. So 21 divided by 3, that's 7. Times by 5 is 35. So now I can come over here and I could put 35 in here, but I could also put 35 in here. And if we use our divide by the bottom and times by the top trick with this, then all I really have to do is 35 divided by 7, which is 5. So look at those skills that we did. We wrote it down. We wrote down the sentence in as short of way as possible. And if you need help in a practice doing that, it's really a smart idea to look at this and find questions on your homework that's similar to this that you could practice it on. Look in the Blondadoop Gifter. My guess is that you will have one in there too. For number 7, I realized that I made a mistake and it's too late to go back and change it. So I'm going to take you to where I got the answer, and then I want to see if you can figure out the mistake. Let's read this though, because this is where I made the mistake, as I didn't read again. It said 1/3, so sometimes I circle it, of his allowance for 8 months. That was an important thing. And monthly we decided was important. He will have enough money to buy a new bicycle for that much. We want to know how much is his allowance. So we go like this. So this is what I wrote down. I figured out, so I looked at this monthly allowance for 8 months, and altogether he got $1,200. So I could see right away, I could do 1,200 divided by 8 to find out how much he gets monthly. So 8 cannot go into 1, but 8 can go into 12 once. And then I would get 4 left over. And then 8 goes into 40 5 times. And then I add the 0. This is where I stopped. Do you see what mistake I made? So the mistake I made is I forgot that that was only 1/3 of his allowance. So we would have to take this 150 and times it by 3 to find out how much he gets for the whole month, which would be, I can do 3 times 15 and get 45, and then I have the 0, so I just put the 0 at the end of it, and it would be kroner. And then number 8. So it said I was thinking of a number, so I put just a box because that for me meant a number, and I multiplied it by 7. Then I added 89, and my final answer was 187. So I always work backwards from the last thing that happened. The last thing that happened was adding 89. What's the opposite of adding 89? Subtracting 89. So we're going to subtract 89 from both sides, and that would be like it never happened on that side. and we'd get 98 on this side. So now we have some number times 7 is equal to 98. I'm still undoing things. So I know that the opposite of timesing by 7 would be dividing by 7. So divide this side by 7. So then I look, and 7 can go into 9 2 times. Excuse me, 1 time. And then we'd have 2 left over, and 7 can go into 28 4 times. So that would mean this number at the beginning would be 14. And 14 times by 7, that's 98, plus 189 would be 187. Number 9. This is me summarizing what it said. It said they bought 3 ice cream cones plus 20 candy bars and paid 226. And maybe I'll put a little KR so we know it's kroner. And we want to find out how much that was. Then later on, it told us that each ice cream cost 22 crowns each. Or ice cream bar thing. So then we can do 3 times by the new information they gave us, and that was 22. Plus 20 candy bars equaled 226. And 3 times 22 is 66, plus 20 kroner equals 226. So I don't know how much the candy bars are yet, but if I forgot that I even got the ice cream bars, I can figure out how much I just paid for the 20 candy bars. So if I subtract that, I will get 6 minus 6 is 0. 2 minus 6 can't do that. 12 minus 6 is 6. And then we'd have 1. So 20 candy bars cost 160 kroner. And then the opposite of timesing by 20 would be dividing by 20. So the candy bars would be, the zeros cancel out like that. And we would have 2 into 16, which would be 8 kroner each candy bar. This is how I'm preparing you to do the A and C level questions on the test. The rest of the time is going to be in a different video, and we probably won't finish it in this class, but please watch it until the end of that, and you will keep on going until you're done. I will put the link on Schoolsoft.